In this video, I'm going to focus on verb voice, which is often discussed as the difference between active and passive verb voice. The choice between these two sometimes evokes strong emotions among writers. I believe this is due largely to a lack of understanding. My goal is to remedy that situation for you. Voice can affect both organization and style or tone in writing. I'll focus on its impact on organization and linking in particular for now. I'm certain you've been told about passive and active voice, but you may not have understood what you were told, or you may have been told things that weren't accurate. In any case, it's unlikely that you've thought about why voice is important in a professional writing setting. We'll consider the verb voice in a formal letter to vendors from an office supply company about some policy changes that they've enacted. The audience for the letter is the group of current vendors that sell to the supply company. The primary purpose of the letter was to direct the readers to supply information related to the company's new policy. Some readers would be experts on the specific policy changes described because they've become widely accepted elsewhere. While some might be sensitive to the writer's information request, it isn't rare that vendors must supply information to their customers. All of this means that the writer has to develop informative content to increase the reader's readiness to accept the message. There isn't a lot of need for persuasive information in this case. One more aspect of audience analysis before I talk about verb voice. It's typically the customer who has more power in this type of situation. We can assume the writer and all readers know each other to some extent because they're currently doing business with each other. Without more information, we don't know how to predict value differences. But I'll repeat what I've said before. The writer certainly needs to do this. The first step here is for you to identify verb voice. Few students get good instruction here, so let me help. The key is to look for a form of the verb be, followed by a verb ending in en or ed. Look at the sentence A here. Is there a form of be? Yes. Were is a form of that verb. Does a verb form follow were? No. Thorough isn't a verb. That means A is not in passive voice. Let's try sentence B. Is there a form of the verb be? Yes, are is a form of that verb. And does a verb form follow are? Yes. Reviewing is a verb. Does reviewing end in en or ed? No. That means be is not in passive voice. Now try sentence C. Is there a form of the verb be? Yes, been is a form of that verb. Does a verb form follow been? Yes, advised is a verb. And does advised end in en or ed? Yes, it does. That's all we have to know in order to be able to judge that sentence C is written in passive voice. The sentence C1 that you see here is the one we just identified as passive. One important aspect of passive voice is that the agent of the action doesn't have to be stated. Sentence C2 leaves out the agent who did the ordering. Sentence D shows how the passives, whether it's C1 or C2, would be turned back into active voice. Now I can help you connect verb voice to cohesion. Take a few seconds to read this passage from the letter to vendors. I definitely think it's awkward and it doesn't flow well. There's a lack of cohesion between the two sentences. You learn that there are two patterns that create cohesion. They do that by repeating information, so identify what information is repeated in the sentences in this passage. There's we in the first sentence and us in the second. How could you reorder subjects and predicates to create a cohesion pattern? What if we change the voice of the second sentence from passive to active? See the be sold, which signals passive voice? What I'm showing in the black box with active voice in the second sentence now repeats we in the subject position. We've fixed the lack of cohesion by creating the AB-AC pattern using a verb voice switch. Take a few seconds to read another passage from the letter to vendors. Identify what information is repeated in the sentences in the passage. This is a more difficult example, maybe because the repetition of given information is more subtle. Can you see that the use of passive voice in the first sentence allowed the agent of reviewing to be omitted? Who would review our policies? Must be the writer's company, that's the agent. If so, we can simply make both sentences active using the agent we in subject position to create the AB, AC pattern. My version is in the black box. If you've studied plain language, especially with Leslie O'Flahaven, you know that elegant variation is something to avoid in technical writing. If you resist stating consecutive sentences with the same information, there's probably an English teacher from your past still living in your head. Elegant variation is important when your purpose is to entertain. In tech writing, though, that's not your job. Both of the examples I've shown earlier fix a cohesion issue by using active voice. Sometimes, however, choosing passive voice is the fix. Take a minute to read this short paragraph inspired by Tom Freeman, who's known online as the Stroppy editor. What information is repeated in the sentences of this passage? It's the drug, right? Yet the passage is not cohesive. The pattern here, if we were to describe it, would be AB, CB, DB. The given information, the drug, is repeated in the predicate of all three sentences. Yet all three sentences are in active voice. We can actually improve cohesion by getting the drug into the subject position of the three sentences. I've done that in the version shown in the black box by making verb voice passive in the first and third sentences. See, been discovered and be approved in these sentences. That creates the pattern AB, AC, AD. The message here is that a proscription against using passive voice is not helpful. Rather, writers should choose the voice that communicates their message effectively and efficiently to their audience. Sometimes that means using passives. What connects verb voice and cohesion is that subjects and predicates are moved within a sentence to change voice. That's very useful when you need to create a cohesion pattern. Cohesion is a critical quality of well-written messages. It ensures the efficiency with which the reader gets that message. Efficient messages make all readers happy, but they're especially important for those who are less ready to accept your message.